Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be having a conversation on motherhood, and we'll be discussing how do we prioritize our children over our careers. A bit sensitive, a bit tricky, but let's talk about it. On the channel today, I have a lovely lady here. Diana, welcome.
Thank you.
I've heard so much about you. I was like, you need to be here, to just pour your wisdom onto us. So welcome to the channel, Diana.
Thank you.
Tell them who you are and what you do.
So my name is Diana Benna, and I do a couple of things. But one of the things that I'm doing currently is that I'm an educator. I'm a principal at Fortress International Christian School. Yeah.
Are you married? Do you have children? Tell us more.
Yeah. I've been married for 16 years this August.
Wow.
Yeah, and we have 4 children. 3 of those children are biological. We have a 15-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 5-year-old.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How is motherhood? How is that whole journey?
The journey of motherhood. You know, motherhood is such a privilege. It's beautiful, being a mother. And many times you're second guessing yourself.
Always, yeah.
You're always wondering, have I done enough? Is there more that I could do?
Yeah.
Am I doing the best? Are there mistakes I'm making?
Yeah.
Are my children going to come out the best way? Is there something I could do better?
I know.
Yes. Yeah. It's one of those places where you're always second guessing yourself because we all, you become a mother suddenly, and it's not like you've done a course
on some research paper,
right? On motherhood,
yeah.
But there you are. Suddenly you're a mother and you have to figure things out. Yeah. But I think that for me, one of the things I'm really thankful for is that on this journey of motherhood, I have had people that have come alongside me. Yeah. At every stage of motherhood, pregnancy, breastfeeding, and then the different stages of children.
For example, you have a support system.
Yes,
wow.
A support system, because otherwise you can't do this alone.
Yeah,
you can't do this alone. So people that come alongside you to just help you when you're struggling, when you make mistakes, how you can do things better. And I think that has really made the journey a lot easier to manage.
Wow. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. So maybe just to hear more in your story, I heard some rumors, that you are once a career mom. Just tell us, how was that journey and how did you get to say, here, let me pause and focus on maybe the children. Just tell us more about that.
Yeah. So when I think about my career journey, I have been working since I left university. I remember by the time I went was graduating, I was already working.
Yeah.
And I never imagined that, there would be a time when I would want to quit work. I had all these career dreams that I wanted to pursue until I got my first child. I did public health for about 16 years. And then when I got my first child, and when a child is 3 months and you're supposed to leave them and go to work, and you're feeling like the worst mother on earth. And I feel like, my goodness, this little thing, I'm going to leave them here. So I remember at that point, I had a boss, and I told her I'm not coming back, So she came to visit me at home during my maternity leave, and she said, are you not coming back? I said, oh my goodness, I'm not coming back. But then she tried and made provisions for me. And then I was able to go back to work, not without its challenges. I was able to go back to work and then go for 2 months. I was going half day and was able to transition into work.
So you worked for how long with having a child?
With having a child? I worked I actually worked with all my children. I just recently, it feels like recent, but I was actually thinking the other day that it's almost been 5 years since I left the career space.
Yeah.
And while in the workspace, it wasn't without its challenges. I remember the first time I had with my firstborn, when I was just getting ready to go back to work, the house help left.
Some of us are struggling. Yes, that struggle. Every mom faces it at some point. Yeah.
So the house help left. It was such a struggle. You know, you've been away from work, you've been on leave, you're going back into the workplace, and then the house help leaving. But then you're thinking, I want to stay home, and yet I also need to make the money. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to make the money. I want to go back to work. So how do you
balance?
How do you balance? Yeah.
Some sort of balance. So how are you? You're saying there were some challenges. What are some of the challenges you faced, especially as a career mom?
So I think for me, one of the things that I really struggled with was not being able to take my children to school, because as I grew in my career and I became senior, it was very difficult to drop my children at school, because that meant that I would be late at work. And I would not drop my children at school. My husband was always dropping my children at school. I couldn't pick my children. At some point, we had to train a nanny that we had been with for a very long time to drive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had to train her to drive so that she could pick the children from school, because they would leave school before 5 o'clock. And there's no way you could be leaving work every day before 5 to pick that.
It's like, how? Please, you have to be serious.
Do you understand?
And ace the stuff.
Do you understand? Yeah. So I felt, as time went by, I had, there's like this conflict in your heart that, you're guilty. You're at work. You're doing an excellent job, but you feel like you're such a hopeless mother, because you don't feel like you're giving all the time to your children.
Yeah.
And so I struggled. There was a battle going on within me. And I kept talking to my husband about how I would like to leave work. And he kept asking me, so that you do what? What are you going to actually do? I want to leave work. I want to find meaningful ways of making an income that will allow me some sort of flexibility to spend time with my children. Yeah. So I remember a time at work where my boss were doing like a 5-year plan for the project that I was working with. And so she was painting all these pictures, and she was asking me, so Diana, where do you see yourself? Like in this, I was not saying anything. She's like, in this, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you fit? And so I thought for a long time. She said, why are you struggling? Okay, so she said, okay, let me make it simpler. What one thing makes you so happy? Yeah. And then I said, spending time with my children. It's like she just stood still and said, what? Like, yeah, we all want to spend time with our children. But
context,
right? What is it that really makes you happy? Oh my goodness, it was such a struggle. Yeah. But I think that, so it was a thing that went on for a long time. And then you're trying to make sense about how you can't also, I was thinking I can't just leave work and I'm not earning some money. I need to be able, do you know it?
Yes.
Yeah. I need to be able to make some money, even if I'm not in an 8-to-5 job. Yeah. But I think that I can think about certain milestones that made me get to this decision. And there are a couple of things. One time when I was very heavy, one of the director of the organization that I was working at called me into his office. And I think I looked like I was going to have a baby the next day. I used to be really big. And so he told me, he said, Diana, if you ever have to choose between your job and your baby, choose your baby.
I feel like someone has said that same thing to me.
Are you
exactly.
serious?
Yes. And he was like on the board of where I was working. Yeah. He said the same exact thing.
I was like, that thing. I just kept thinking about it. For me, it was not just that baby that I was carrying in my womb. It was that, you know what? Prioritize your children. Yeah. Prioritize your family. It's very important. And it sort of stayed with me. If you ever have to choose between your job and your baby, choose your baby.
Yeah.
And then another time, we were hosting this missionary lady. She was about 70. Now, because I was busy, I had traveled. I was away for a week. But I had created systems in my home that even if I was away for a week, I could be able to host.
Yeah. Oh.
So I'd hosted her for a week. And I was away, and I returned on a Friday night. I didn't see her. I came late in the night. So on Saturday morning, my daughter, I think, was about 8. And so she said, we want to surprise you. So my daughter plays recorder, and so she went and was playing piano. Oh my goodness, it was so beautiful. So I said, oh my goodness. I told my daughter, oh my goodness, I never knew you could play so well. And she said, but mommy, you've never had time to listen to me. When would you have... Oh my goodness. Hey. I just felt like there was a dagger in my heart. Oh my goodness, I couldn't.
And you know she's saying it casually, like as usual, like,
yeah,
no, but
and then
you
she
never...
went to, like you never have time. When would you have had me? I said, wow.
Yeah.
I just felt like this was, this was just stamping it.
Yeah.
And I think a week later, I just told my husband, you know what, honestly, I am done. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. So I think, that there are a couple of things that led there, but, those are some of the things that got me to that place. And I went, I started meeting with my life coach. It was not something that I took lightly.
Yeah.
Just quitting your career is not something light.
It's not.
It is not light. And I tried to, I said, maybe if I apply for jobs that are
flexible, just
more flexible.
You're trying to make things work, then you're trying to hold on.
Yes, you're trying to hold on. But as I kept trying for other jobs, I realized that, you know what, you've grown senior. And so even the more senior jobs come with more responsibility, more travel demands. Yeah. And at that time, my children were really young. The first was 10, the other one was 8, and the other one was 3. And, I just realized this thing is not going to work. And I had no peace. I had no joy. I felt like I'm trying, but I don't see myself. This is not success. This is not my definition of success. It's just not it. Yeah. It's not it. Deep
and you
down,
can have all the money,
you
all the promotion, you're traveling.
You understand.
Going even there is maybe head of something.
I was really doing very well in my career, by many standards. But I felt like, no, this thing is not working. So I remember I planned to go and talk to my boss about this. Remember, we're in the middle of planning, what the next 5 years are going to look like. Where do you want to see yourself?
Yeah.
And another senior colleague of mine during that planning put me aside and said, Diana, I'm leaving. I said, you can't be leaving because I want to leave. Oh my goodness. She said, Diana, I am saying before you, I am leaving. Now, once he said he was leaving, I was thinking, goodness, what am I going to do? But I have to say this thing.
Yeah.
So I gave it a month. And then I went and I gave 3 months notice. I had many people spoke to me. Many people were willing to give me jobs. I was sitting on a board. They were happy to hire me, but I said, you know what? And it was difficult to explain what it was, because it didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense. Like, as in,
do you understand?
You can make it work now.
Right?
Like, get a third maid.
Exactly. So, I said I need to go and rethink, re-strategize my life. I never really came to say that, what is, like, you have to find what is the sensible, is that a sensible thing that you're saying? Yeah, I want to go and re-strategize my life and rethink and reevaluate and I know, right? Yeah. So it's been quite a journey.
Okay, so as you're talking about, you gave 3 month notice, maybe you talk to different people. When it comes to that financial thing, how did you plan it out? Because sometimes when people see people who have left, you must be millionaires, because how dare you make such a decision? Because I'm sure you've reached that level in your career, you're earning big bucks, some substantial amount of money. So for you to say that now you're leaving, either you're a millionaire, you guys are billionaires, you're so rich. So, but like, how was that journey, especially with that fear of the finances as well? Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So I think that one of the things I started to do, I left work in December 2019. and I kept asking God to give me wisdom on how to create, an income. And in 2018, I started to do some hospitality business, and trusting God that it would grow. But the way it was is that it didn't require too much of my time. That I had I'd have the flexibility to spend more time with my children, because that was my primary goal. And I started selling honey. I started selling fabric. Trying it out at work. And you have to plan. I don't think you can just up and go. Because even though I have a husband with whom we have like our financial planning is done together and we work together, but you still have to make a contribution to the home.
You feel relevant,
right? You have to make a contribution to the home. So I was thinking about strategies of making an income. So I started to do things even while at work that I saw started to bring an income, and I believe they would grow, but still not grow to a point where I would then not be available to my children, which was my primary goal. So I think for me that was really critical. That I still figure out creative ways of making an income. Without necessarily going away from time with my children.
Did you feel guilt or pressure from people externally saying, but how do you make that decision, and how do you overcome it? Because the truth is sometimes we are people pleasers, or we think about perception. How are people going to see me? Now you are serious in the boardroom. Now are people going to see you?
Right.
Like you're just at home.
Right.
How do you go through that?
The truth, Lisa, is that I didn't tell many people because I knew that people wouldn't understand. I think I told my inner family and my close friends about this decision, but I remember a time where I went for a wedding and one of my relatives asked me, so Diana, what do you do?
The famous question,
what do you do? What do you do? And at that time, my transition, there are certain things I haven't talked about, but at that time I was homeschooling my children. That's another part of the story. I was homeschooling my children. I'd never ever planned to homeschool my children. And so I told her that I'm homeschooling my children. She said, no, I mean like serious work. What do you do?
She just threw your stuff
right? What do you do? I was like, my goodness. I mean, I'm homeschooling my children. It's an 8 to 5 job. It's work. It's just that it's, at home. Yeah. But I think that for me is if you have a strong why, you need to have a strong why. If you have a strong why, every time you sort of anticipate the question and the pressure. And so once you have a strong why, it's not going to move you. It does bother you from time to time when people keep asking, so what do you do? Like, I remember there's one of the people that I was working with that was very highly placed, that was from another organization. She just called me on a random day. She said, so Diana, now, you said you went to think, to re-strategize.
Have you finished?
Yeah, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing some hospitality business. She said, yeah, but that's not intellectually stimulating. What are you doing? Like, be serious with your life. So society can actually make it tough. But I think you need to have a strong why, and you need to have a good community, support once you make that decision.
So when you talk about now you've stayed home and you're trying to be more present at home, did you see some benefits, especially with the children, when you decided to make that decision? Like, what are those things you saw that you hadn't seen even before?
Oh my goodness, the benefits are immense. And I believe that I'm going to reap even, like it's like you're planting seeds and going to reap much later. So you see, for me, like I said, I had a busy job with, regular travel for many years. But one of the things that I appreciated was being able to spend time with my children and bond with them. I remember my children beginning to say, Mommy, we can even have a picnic. You know, like basically what they meant is just go and sit in the grass and have some.
And kids are so like small things.
Yeah, it's just little things. Being able to understand my children's emotional needs.
Yeah.
Being able to understand their physical needs. Being able to train my children in life skills. You know, like chores. You know, those are really life skills. And to understand that, you know, these little people, they have dreams, they have abilities, they have potential that God has given them that you can help to harness. You know, I realized that my older son loved to cook, you know, but I never had time, even when I desired. You know, on Saturday you're so exhausted. You're like let me rest. Yeah, let me rest. Yeah, I've been working, but also I am involved in discipling young people. Yeah. So even the weekends I was busy. You know, so you know, being able to see that gifting of his, being able to see that my daughter is a creative. Yeah. Being able to bond with my little one and teach him how to read and write. You know, and go away with my children on dates, and my children actually, you know, would sort of voice these things out. Mommy, it's so good to have you. You know, it's so good to be able to spend time with you. So I think that these things are the benefits, are the kind of things that you live, you're like, this is who God created me to be. This is success. I am in the will of God right now, because you know, for me, I believe, I mean, the Bible talks about how God has created marriages to raise godly offspring, right? And I felt like the benefit of being here is that I'm providing an environment for these children to be godly. But I also have time, you know, because even when I went home, the time that I spent was, I am thinking about the project that I left at work.
How to execute it.
Do you understand?
The new technique. How
to... You go to bed thinking about it. You wake up thinking about it. I don't have time to check my child's school bag to see what is in there, to see...
But he didn't finish his snacks.
Do you understand? What is he? To understand, I understood what they were doing at school, where their weaknesses were, where their strengths are. And I can tell you, for each of my children, I can see the potential of where they will be, of who they can become, of what career they can pursue. I know, you know, for each of them, I've been able to understand them very well. And I think for me, that's success.
Yeah, I really love that. And it just brings me back to my decision as well. You know, when I felt like, of course, you leave early for work, that means my little one I've not seen is still sleeping. You come back at about maybe 5:36 if you've beaten the jam. So he has 1 hour before he goes to bed. So you're like just trying to play catch up. And then sometimes the help will say, no, he doesn't like that. And you're like, I didn't know, but like you're like, it should be knowing this, you know. And there's something I've learned about children. You know, there's this whole debate of quality time versus quantity time with children. What do you have to say about that two things?
So for me, one of the things I have learned about children is that for children, quantity time is quality time. So for children, the definition of quality time is actually quantity time. It's how much time you spend with them. But of course, we also need to know that just because you're at home does not mean
you are present.
Do you understand? You have to be intentional to be engaged with them, because you can just be in the house. You can be in the house, but you're doing your own things. You're on your phone. You're there looking at reels, you know. You're watching your television. So it's quantity time is quality time if you're engaged. You have to be intentional about being engaged with the children.
And I think I've found, even me, that challenge that you've left work, your 8 to 5, to come home and be with, that was the primary goal. But then as we start these businesses that are supposed to help us add something to the family, help us be flexible, sometimes they begin now to overpower. And now, you know, like a new business, if you're not there now, so now you begin trying to make the business work, the content creation work, and now it's like, but now even worse than it
can get, but it can actually get worse. You have to be very careful.
So maybe we can speak on, ideally, how should being present look like? Just like, Of course, it can't be like for everyone the same exact thing, but how does it look like? Yeah.
So I think for me, it's that you are intentional. You know, I just decided, because I was coming from a background of program management where you have a work plan for 5 years, you break it down to 1 year, you break it down to quarters, you break it down to months and weeks. And so when I came home, I thought, you know what? I've been doing all this at work. Why can't I do this for my children? Why can't each of my children become a project? You know? And so if you think like that, especially if you're a busy mother, or, you know, in a working world, you can think about each child as a project. And so if I think about my child as a project, what are the needs of this child? What are their emotional needs? What are their physical needs? And what do I need to do as a mother? So maybe let's say for the 3-year-old, because we know that for children, they say that, you know, the golden age of brain development is between 2 and 7. And so as a mother, what do I need to do? I need to play with them. I need to read to them. I need to help their cognitive skills develop. I need to help their motor skills develop. What do I want to do? I want them to play in the sand. I want them to jump. I want them to run. I want them to catch ball because it helps their fingers, you know, if they're preparing to write. So you can think about the things and be very intentional.
And each child is different.
Each child is very different. And each age has its needs. You know, the girls have different needs, the boys have different needs. And then you decide, you know, I'm going to go for a walk with this one child alone. I'm going to make sure that for this little one, I make sure that I give them a bath. Okay, if you're very busy, at least twice a week. Because sometimes mothers will spend an entire week without.
It's very possible.
Yes, even a month.
Yes,
yeah. So I'm the one going to give the child a bath, you know, because then when you're giving your baby a bath, they unwind. There are certain things they talk about. So your intention, on Fridays, I'm the one who's going to pick my children from school. If they have a co-curricular activity, on this day, I'm the one that's I'm going to take them. So if we think about our children as projects, and agree on certain things that we're going to do with the children, you have an overall goal. What is your goal? I don't know, to nurture your children, to raise a godly generation. I'm going to make sure I read a Bible story with them before they go to bed. Go to bed before. I'm going to pray with them. So you decide and put down certain things, but as a mother, you have to be very intentional.
And I like that, because now it seems like we need to, as moms, what I'm hearing from you, because remember you've said each gender, like girl has different needs, boy different needs, age. So that means we have to research.
Exactly.
So now we cannot be parenting like just, okay, like we need to be intentionality also means learning.
Exactly.
What does my 2-year-old need generally? And then also individually. I'm seeing certain character traits. What do I do with a child who is emotional too much? Maybe I should read a poem. Maybe I should pray about it. Maybe I should talk to someone about it.
And I was just reminded of, there's a proverb that says that rebuke and discipline give wisdom, but a child left to himself brings shame to their mother. A child left to themselves. And you know, you can leave a child to themselves even when you're present in the house.
Because you're doing nothing about anything.
You're doing nothing about anything. They're probably watching television. You don't know what they're watching. They're left to themselves. They can bring shame to their mother. But you want to be an engaged mother. You want to be intentional. You want to be diligent. You have a plan for them that they don't know about. You're like, for them to grow, I'm going to teach this one how to clean their room. We're going to learn how to make rice. This holiday, we're going to learn how to cut fruit. This holiday, we're going to learn how to lay our bed. This holiday, we're going to learn how to iron clothes. So they're not left to themselves. You are training them very intentionally.
Diana, you know, all these things are nice. They seem nice. But I don't know if it's just me. Have you ever felt like sometimes being with our kids is boring? Like, you're like, now what do we do next? Like, does anyone ever feel like that? Or just feel like something else is more interesting? Like, if there are mothers out there, what do we do? Or what do we do in such situations if we ever feel like, the kids are walking up, holidays again, and now we have to be, you like, you know, what encouragement would you give?
Yes, to feeling like you're actually tired of it. I think that for me, one of the things that keeps me going, I think I usually face that when I think about the seasons, when you've just had a baby, and you feel like, my goodness, I need some adult talk. Am I just going to be in Baba, changing diapers? You know, the routine can get a bit challenging. But I think we need to remember that we have a very short window. It's a very short window.
A lot is at stake.
A lot is at stake. It's a very short window. If you're taking your child to boarding school, for those who go to boarding school at age 13, you have just 0 to 12. And because I have a 15-year-old, I know that time goes by very quickly.
Yeah.
And if we do not establish relationship within that short window, it's gone.
Yeah.
You know, it's gone. So when we think that it's a very short window, then we think, my goodness, we have all these things to do. But also, if we sit and think about how many things, if we have a plan. A plan. I think I like a plan. If we have a plan, you keep thinking, oh my goodness, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. Many times we struggle because we haven't thought through what we want to do, or also we don't have the knowledge. And for me, being in community has been helpful. That you learn many things from different people. If you go to Lisa's home, you learn this idea. You learn if you're in a group and you're seeing mothers. You know, I've had a group where as parents, we're learning together, we are studying together, we're talking about our challenges and our struggles, and how did you do this, how did you do that? So I think when you get together in community, there are many things that can actually be helpful. But to remember that we have a very short window.
Do you feel like mothering these days, we have dropped the ball and we have sort of been laid back about our role as parents, as moms?
Yeah, I think that, you know, it's a challenging time to be a mother. It's a time where the economy demands that everybody brings something to the table. It can be a challenge. But I also believe strongly that we have a God-given responsibility. Like I say, and in many of our local languages, they talk about how, you know, a child will bring shame to the mother. It doesn't bring shame to the father because we're the primary nurturers, you know, of these children. So because as mothers, we are trying to do both career and motherhood, it has been very challenging. And yes, we have dropped the ball in many ways, but I think that also people have really tried to find a balance. But I think that there are things that we can do, even as career women, that can help us grow in our motherhood journey and not have regrets in life and feel like we actually have been successful.
Okay, so there may be a mother out there now. Many I feel like many, okay, not all, but many times when a woman gives birth, that thought always comes in. Like it always like, are you going to leave this baby banange?
I know, right?
Am I not important? You know, it always comes into the minds of mothers. But then there are moms who financially cannot, single moms, or your husband is not working. Like, how do they ensure that they are trying to be intentional while still trying to make that money? Like, how do we find that balance? Because we don't want moms to feel like, hey, you guys are just privileged. Oh, your husband is working now. Right? You know, how do we do that?
I know there are many mothers who definitely it doesn't make sense to, you know, quit the 8 to 5 and come home. But I think that for me, I still go back to the point of being intentional. That, you know, as a mother, when we remember that we have also, you know, we have a responsibility to raise our children. We find creative ways. And I think that one of the things that you can decide is, for example, regarding television, that, you know, for many of us, the television is the one that is raising that child.
Our nanny.
It's our nanny. You can actually decide to not do television through the week. And children are amazing. They love structure.
They adjust.
They adjust so amazingly, you know, that they will be happy not to have television during the week. And because television has a huge negative impact on the children at certain ages. I talked about how that's the golden age of brain development is 2 to 7. That's when 90% of their brain develops. And at that time of brain development, they need to be exposed to other things. So we can create schedules in our homes where we say, I'm going to come home and I'm going to read to my child for 10 minutes, you know, if that's going to help their brain develop. I am going to ask my child to write something down. I'm going to ask them and play ball with my child. You know, there are simple things that are not costly. I'm going to take a walk with my child for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, and hear them out. Be intentional. Choose to be engaged. Realize that you're working on a relationship with your child. That this is a proper human being with personality, with desires, with needs. Like, you create time to go and be with your child and get to know them. But also, in terms of career choices, you know, as I came, I was asking my husband, what do you think about? He's like, but career choices, you can choose certain things. You can choose that I will not take on this job which is taking me to South Africa and then leave my children with a maid and come back once a year. You can choose certain career paths that may give you a little less, but will allow you to have an opportunity to spend more time with your children. So that if you have already established a strong why, a goal of, I want to nurture my children, I want to train my children, I want to raise my children, I want to be present, then that can easily guide your career path and your career choices. That there are certain things you're going to say no to. That if I'm given a job in London, and then I have to leave my children, I will say no to the job. So some of the choices that we make in terms of career, that you don't have to do, the certain jobs that you can avoid.
You can cut back a little.
You can cut back a little. You can even
pinch a little.
Yeah, I have seen people resign from certain jobs. A single mother that I know, you know, that would not allow them, and then take on something that will probably give you a little less. But that our priority should be spending time with our children. Because I have seen people in their 60s who are measuring success by their relationship with their children. And I think that was one of those things that actually led me to come to that place where I thought, like, no, you know, if this gentleman who is 50 and he's telling me, you know, I wish I had spent more time with my children. I don't want to get to that place. I want to know that, you know what, I did everything in my power. I spent as much time as I could with my children. I poured out my life. I trained, I instructed, I guided, I developed relationship.
And I think it's a tough one, especially you have a certain lifestyle. You know, you've been in the corporate space, as in... My God, you ever shopping, you ever doing certain things, you're going on vacation. Now, leaving your job would mean you're no longer doing that stuff, and you know, and being in society and feeling like you know, you're failing. And I think just going back to the drawing board, I always tell myself, just even me, I'm caught sometimes, you know, go back to the drawing board, you know, and I'm like, you know what, that meeting, Neda, maybe I should just, you know, because the children are the priority. It is the why. I remember in Titus where it says mom should teach the women to be busy at home. And I keep saying, what does busy at home mean? Because you know, in the home things, in the parenting things, like that is the key thing. Not saying that we will not be CEOs and what, but maybe we will not, you know, at this time.
But also to, you know, sometimes you need to remember when you think that this is not, maybe it's not a very important job, but remember that you don't know who you're raising. You're raising an amazing doctor, an amazing teacher, an amazing husband, an amazing wife. You decided to give time to this. You know that they're that important that you're going to spend quality time with these people.
Oh, and you mentioned in the beginning that you're an educator. You know, you're principal of a school. Just how did you get now to begin a school, and how is balancing looking like?
So when I decided to leave my 8-to-5 job, I went and my children were using the accelerated Christian education curriculum, the ACE curriculum. And so I had always wanted to understand a little bit more, and there was a training, but I never had time to do. So in Jan, I went and did the training, and shortly after that, there was a lockdown. There was COVID. I'd said I can never homeschool unless there's a war. I don't know.
And then the war came.
The war came. Yeah, and then were asked, you know, if there is there an adult at home that can help with the children. They sort of continued. The school continued, you know, with the children. And as an adult, yeah, what we thought would take 2 weeks took 2 years. You know. And so that year, towards the end of the year, I thought, you know what? Why don't I just? It was scary, but I felt like I could pull out a little bit since I'm doing the work. And homeschool the children, because my 3-year-old was now turning 4, and I pulled him out of school and I was getting concerned, you know, it's time to go to school. So I started teaching the children for a while, and then 2 years after that, we just sensed that, you know, there were so many people who came to us feeling like, oh my goodness, you're doing a good job with the children. Could you take on our children? So I first took on my sister's 3 children, and then this year, we decided to open, you know, our school to the public. But in terms of balance, for me, it's been that I'm spending every waking moment with the children. You know, I'm able to, I drive with them to school, I spend break time with them, lunch time with them. They're always coming to me. I go and check on their work. Sometimes I actually teach them, you know, in the classes. So it's like I'm spending a lot of quality time with the children. Yeah.
So I love that, you know, that is structured still around raising the children. That's such a good job. You know, but being an educator, you've seen lots of children. You've seen lots of parents, you know. What mistakes do you see that young parents are making out there that we could just hint on? Because sometimes the truth is people bring the children to school for the school to raise them. They're like, Christian, pardon?
Yeah.
That one will help me. This is it. Christian, because we don't want to do the work. We want you to do the work for us. Please, what things have you seen?
So I think that, first of all, the primary thing that I see is that parents are not aware. They don't recognize that education, taking your child to a school, is a delegated responsibility. That the primary educator is actually the parent. You know, the mother is the first educator. The mother will teach the child how to eat, how to drink, potty training, you know. So the mother is the primary educator. And so sometimes parents feel like, let me take the child to school and it will be fixed. But actually, if a child realizes that something that's done at school is not done at home, they will do that thing at school and not do it at home. If you at school you're teaching the children how to read the Bible and how to pray and it's not done at home, most likely they're not going to, you know, they're not going to take it on. I think that's why the saying, charity begins at home, is there. That there has to be, you have to be able to emphasize the thing that you're doing at school, you have to be able to emphasize it at home. And in this school, we actually try to engage the parents quite a bit. We try to bring them in so that we're not, you know, doing something at school and it's not being done at home. Otherwise, you're wasting.
It's not effective.
It's not effective at all. So I think that the thing is for parents to realize that they're the primary educators. What is done at school is, you know, they're just adding on to what the parents have done.
They're just helping you, even you now first be doing the main part.
So when you delegate something to somebody, there's something they would say in the corporate world that hands off, eyes on. You know, you're not completely off, you know, completely off, but you continue to engage with the child, to teach, to train, to instruct, that you're involved in that. We actually realize that for parents who are deeply engaged in their children's lives, those children thrive much more. It's so evident. They thrive much more at school. They are more successful than those children whose parents are not as engaged. So a school does not sort your child out. You sort the child out and the school just does the icing on the cake.
The polishing. So polishing. Parents, please be more involved, you know. And as we still talk about, and I wanted to touch a little on it, you know, with this SEA. Me, I'm an SEE parent, but I will confess that what I want is at least the foundation is Christian. I will also do at home, but that's, I feel like that is, once a child has that, they will be successful. The math, what, I get that, okay, good. But like, if that one is there, then success is more, you know. But what else would people need to know about the ACE and why ACE for that matter?
So I think for me, my attraction to the ACE curriculum was, there are a couple of things, but one of them is that what makes a school Christian is not that the teachers are Christian, but this is a Bible-based curriculum that, you know, its foundation is in the Bible. I'll just give you an example. There's a time I attended a science class with my children, and I had the science teacher ask. These were like high school students, maybe S4, the equivalent of S4. And they asked the question, what is science? And if you went to a Ugandan school and they ask what is science, you're like, that's obvious. Science is a study of living things and non-living things, right? And these children said, science is the study of God's creation. I was like, wow, I've never thought about it like that. It was like mind-blowing, like the study of God's creation. Think about it. It's all God's creation. So it's a Bible-based curriculum. It's individualized. It means that every child goes according to their own pace, according to their own level, so that no child is going to feel like I am slow, I am fast. But, they're doing things according to the way that God has, has designed them. And then there is it's a system of mastery, that you master things before you move on. You're not just promoted, but you work according to your own pace and master and move on. Yeah, that, that the individualization is a big deal. And I think one of the things I really appreciate, which I feel like goes into our everyday life, is the issue of setting goals. That you come every morning, I see my 7-year-old, you come every morning, you set your goals, and you make sure that you finish your goal. You're responsible for your goals, for the day. And they take this into their individual life. They promote self-learning. They're able to self-teach. And I have seen children take this on, teach themselves many things. My son the other day was teaching himself Spanish, programming, because they have cultivated a habit for you to self-teach. To read things on your own. And I think that's what we need in our lives, that you can teach yourself, you can read things on your own, and grow in any way.
I love that. I love that. So just looking back, your journey and, from the career and then everything you decided to do, is there something, how would you have done it differently, knowing what you know now? Are there some things you'd have done differently?
Yeah. I think that one of the things I would have done differently, knowing what I know now, is I would have stayed home with my children from the time I had children. I wouldn't have taken on the 8-to-5 job. I believe that I could have, if I wanted, I could have gotten into the career space later. But I feel like there's something that I missed. And one of the things I feel like I really missed was teaching my children their local language. Because you're absent and you have a household who is speaking English, it's difficult. It's been a war trying to teach my children their local language. I didn't work on it because you're not present. For some people, they're present, but I was not present. So if you've left with somebody with them from 8 to 5 and they're speaking English, I'm not able to speak. That is really clear. But I think that I could have done things differently. I could have been more present in their very early years, which I was not able to do.
So what would you say to, there's this whole trend coming up, daycare, daycare, 3 months daycare, and of course the nanny situation. But maybe, do you have anything to say about this daycare situation? Do you think it's ideal? Is it better to take to a daycare than to have a maid at home? Like, what do you have to say about that?
I think it really depends, because, like I still keep going back to those golden years where it's 90% of your brain, of the child's brain development, that prepares them for, it's like you're laying a foundation for the future. And so I think that it depends. It depends. When you take a child to daycare, why are you taking, what is your goal? I don't know, what is your goal? And when you have a nanny, what is your goal? Because if they are going to daycare, you know what they're going to, for most of them, they will struggle with flus, they are interacting with the little ones and they're getting sick. They might be in a good daycare where they are going to do activities that will help with brain development. They might go to a daycare where they're watching television. You need to be the judge of that. But also, when you leave a nanny at home, what have you put in place to help the nanny instruct the child? Have you done anything? Because I remember at some point I would leave my nanny and say, this week we're studying blue, color blue. You're going to tell them, blue cup, blue what? So I think that you need to know why you are taking your child to a daycare. There might be a situation where a daycare might be better. and there might be a situation where having a child with a nanny might be better at a specific age, but you also need to be very careful what daycare you're taking your child to.
I was watching something about this whole daycare and nanny situation, and the person kept I think it was a psychologist or something, about how children, especially when they're young, like from 0 to maybe 3, there is that stability in terms and emotional,
that is very true.
You know, that they need from us.
That's true.
And she seemed to suppose that it would be better if you even had a nanny, because that one is more stable, because it's one-on-one. Like if your child is crying, they are there. If you are 7-on-1, because the daycare is trying to manage numbers as this one is crying, maybe you first be crying, you know, something is happening in their brain, you know, and it's kind of detaching, you know. So I was just like, you know, and of course, even when it comes at home, we have so many in and outs. Like after 1 month,
the nanny
has gone. Another month, the nanny has gone. So it actually affects them in terms of attachment. You're not there, and now so the person who's supposed to be there is also changing. Different faces. It actually affects them. You know, I was just thinking through, and maybe as moms, we need to actually do more research and find out more about, you know, is this the best situation for my child, you know, for the family, you know. So it just got me thinking that's
right. And I think some mothers have taken their children to daycare out of frustration. You know, you're going to work and then the nanny says, I'm leaving. And you're like, I'm tired of nanny. So let me take them to a daycare. It may not necessarily be the best option, but I think in some situations where people feel like they're desperate and there's no option, they just, I'm not a supporter of children starting, I don't know, daycare is not a school, but I'm not a supporter of children starting school really
because some daycares, they begin to hear them, read,
and they haven't developed fine motor skills. Their fingers are struggling. If you give them a crayon, you know, they'll hold it like this.
And then you're
pushing the limit. Because parents are asking for results.
I want to see them keep talking.
They're not learning. They're not learning. So
it's quite tough, you know. So I just encourage us to just read more, weigh the options, know, you know, what's at stake. Because sometimes, you know, we say, nga our parents, or nga thingy did like this and her kids are fine. No, but some of these things manifest when they are older.
And also, you don't know that their children are fine.
You don't know. You're seeing us here. You don't know if we're okay.
Exactly.
You know, so I think it's really best to just seek God on that decision, you know. Anyway, any final thoughts you'd love to share, some tips? I know there will be some career moms who are watching and you've done it, you know, you've been in career before and they may not be able to, you know, jump out now or as they still make that decision. How do they balance? But also just tips for moms to be aware of, because the truth is that the responsibility is high. God is asking a lot, you know, and we are giving bare minimum sometimes. Even for myself, even after this, I'm just like, goals, I'm thinking I need to get goals.
I know, right?
And be more serious, you know. So, what final thoughts can you share?
So I think that for me, the final thoughts for moms, especially career moms, be intentional. Choose to be engaged in the lives of the children. It's a very short window. It's amazing how time flies, but it does go by very quickly. So if we're intentional to be engaged, you can be, even as a career mom, there are certain things that we can do to be engaged. So be intentional.
I really love that. I remember when I was working at 5, everyone knew, don't begin calling Lisa, I'm out of there, you know. So you may not advance as much as another person who's putting in more time. That should be okay. And I think just cutting back from our selfish desires, because sometimes we say, but I'm doing it for the children.
That's the thing.
Nayenga, are you?
No. But also the children, do they think that you are? You know, you say, I'm going to do this master's for the children. I'm leaving this child at 6 months and I'm going away for 1 year. It's going to affect your relationship.
There is no way he's doing it for the children.
So
let's be honest.
That's the thing.
Wait, so you're doing it for you. Yes, you're struggling. That's better. But you know,
for the children.
Because I've felt it also myself, like, I'm doing this for the children, and sometimes we're driven, but God has called me to. you know, so it can be really tough. So that's just an encouragement. I hope you guys have found some value. What are those struggles you're dealing with, you know, as a mom? Let us know in the comment section, and let's just encourage one another. Thank you so much, Diana, for being
Thank you for
here.
having me, Lisa.
But please, what's the school again? Emphasize it.
International Christian School.
But please, if you're looking for a place, I think Fortress would be a good one. When did you start again?
We started this year.
Amazing. So please check it out and subscribe to the channel so that this video can reach many more moms so they can be impacted. My name is Lisa Kusima. As always, I'm here to inspire.